So this other video that I wanted to make is whole, it's probably it's the most disturbing that I could think of at the very moment. But I don't know who's fixing, alleviating, who's giving orders to do what. But this is about Robert's funeral. Robert Girardi's funeral. Who was like my brother. He was very close to him. Who died in the car wreck with Edward Rangel. And everything I talked about, but I've never made a video on this. Now that this information is being told to me or being aware of, and I recall when Robert Girardi passed away, and I talked about that. Selena was like a couple rows behind me, and or a row behind me, on a little bit to the side, and there was a lot of people. I remember seeing Chris Kemp, and there was just a lot of people. I remember Chris Kemp looking at me like, I know. Like he gave me sort of this, sort of salute or look, like I know, I know this is painful for you, man. This is like this, this is your friend. This is, a tragic event, and it was comforting to know, because and there was a lot of people walking in line, a lot, and to walk by his casket, and Robert Girardi Sr. and Alicia and the family, which was on the other side. And as Robert, was closed casket, when he came toward the end of the line, I don't think it was my mother. I think it was my mother's twin. And there were several people that kind of moved out of the line, not out of the line, but leaned over to look at the line, and my mother was sort of looked like or not my mother, but my mom's identical twin, like she was trying to put the attention on herself, and it was very blatantly in front of everybody, and this is like a crowd full of people. And my mother didn't look at me. My mother's identical twin didn't look at me, and I know it wasn't my mother because there was something different, something that just didn't seem right. And you could tell because everyone looked for a moment, like, what are you doing? Like, wasn't too sure, like, why is this person trying to make a show or something out of this? Afterwards, Alicia told me something. I don't know if there was recording devices in her environment too when she said this, but she was disturbed by it and hurt. And she goes, "Oh, I saw your mother," and the way that she expressed herself, she was like, she didn't like the fact that my mom, what she didn't know was my mother's identical twin, seemed to it looked like he was kind of taunting her. And Alicia told me something, and not like she was mad at me. She looked and goes, "Oh, I saw your mother," and like, oh. And she kind of gave an expression that she didn't give her approval and like what she had done. She didn't say anything. She said that her mother just looked at her and her dad and just walked by, didn't say anything. But I wanted to say something because Alicia expressed to me that she didn't, she felt like she felt disrespected the fact that it was her brother that she was doing this in front of. And in front of Robert Girardi. So I know Alicia Girardi, I know that she didn't, me personally, she expressed to me she didn't like it. She didn't like the fact that she had done this. I don't, know the details that if somebody told, in my opinion, I think that somebody possibly, most likely told my mother to show up there. My mother's identical twin instead of my mother. But I thought it was important for me to say something because I don't know a lot of the inside stuff, that maybe there was like a murder or there was drugs something else that had happened that was very suspicious, that maybe that's why they said, to show up there. But it's very disturbing because Alicia expressed to me that she didn't, she felt very violated. Knowing Alicia, because I was around that house and I knew her so well, and even when I was kids, me and Robert, with like Alex, who ended up going to prison in Mexico, and drug dealing with Jesse, and Alicia very much kind of looked at me like her little brother, because I remember her being protective of me and Robert because we were together all the time, and she was more protective sort of over me than all the other friends when it came to me and Robert. And I remember that very well. And she had expressed, to herself, she felt violated. She felt disrespected. Because the way that she looked like she was kind of putting on the show to herself and trying to say, see, you see what happens? And kind of attitude. And Alicia and Mr. Zarate picked up on that. Alicia definitely did. I don't know who else. I don't remember hearing Mary, but knowing how Mary and the family was, because they were all sitting like basically on the side in front of the funeral service, that they didn't approve or like sort of her actions. That they didn't particularly seem very respectful. But I thought it was important for me to say, because I know that Alicia, because I went to her house probably like a year after, so like a year, it was like a year after, 10 months after, it was, because I was just about 19, so it was a little less than a year, and I went to Alicia's apartment with Rodrigo, and Alicia was pregnant, and I remember her standing over the stove, and the lights were very dim, and she had this very deep inner cry that she was crying, and I know because her son, she named her son Robert after Robert Zarate to honor him, and she said, she didn't say anything. I remember her crying, not like a real nasty, like a very just silent, quiet cry to herself. And I tried saying a few things that were nice, and it was just very quiet. Nobody said anything, and nobody was in the apartment other than Rodrigo and the baby crib's room. And then I went into the room, spoke to Rodrigo, and shared a few tears with him, and talked to him for a little while, and then talked about Billy, saying that Billy was, had been murdered, and it was just a lot for something like that to happen to all of us in such a loving, caring family, that especially they were to me. That family I owe a lot to. Mr. Zarate, Alicia, and Robert Zarate, Senior and Junior, and Alicia is the people I owe the most to, because even before Mary and Christina showed up, for years prior to that, I was around them all the time, just all the time, and I was very accepted in the family. I owe them a lot. They were very, very, they were like my family. They were like kind of my guardians. And knowing Alicia, and not just because I'm not trying to instigate it, she expressed to me she was very hurt and couldn't believe that somebody had sort of disrespected her brother's casket in front of so many people, and didn't show because I think Alicia said that your mother, she just looked and she was just like, oh, and didn't express very much empathy or remorse when she looked at Alicia and Robert Zarate. To my understanding, I remember Alicia expressing to me. I don't know what was involved. I think that there had to been something involved. I don't think my mother's identical twin would have shown up by herself, just like she wanted to. I think somebody told her for whatever reason. I don't know why, but it bothers me, tremendously, to do how she felt like that time at that funeral, because Alicia was so deeply hurt in a way that was like, I had never seen Alicia hurt like that. I had never seen anybody that was hurt like that, like she had lost her brother. Because Alicia, she looked exactly like her mother. Like Robert Zarate, his mom, that didn't look like his mom. But she was a female for sure, but Alicia's mother looked a lot like Alicia, a lot like her, because I'd seen pictures of her, and I recall that Alicia's Robert Zarate and Alicia and Robert Senior told me several times, but Robert Bubba, I always called him Robert, but maybe most people knew him as Bubba, and said that his mother died in a car wreck, and he said that him and Robert Jr. always told me that his dad, Robert Sr., used to always say that they believed that what she had died was from a previous car wreck, because they had gotten into a car wreck when they were in Mexico on a trip to Mexico, and they were, I think, in a van, and the car flipped over several times, and she ended up in a hospital. But they said that Robert always believed that she took internal injuries from that car wreck that later ended up causing her fatal end of life. And she ended up, I'm not sure exactly what the cause of her death was, but I think it was some kind of stroke or brain hemorrhage or something like that. And but I remember him saying that, and she was fairly young. His mother was somewhat in her early 40s to late 30s, anywhere from 30 to 45 years old. But I thought it was important for me to talk about, because Alicia expressed to me she didn't like how she expressed. She felt disrespected at her own brother's funeral. But I thought I would say that because it would have 100% affected that relationship of sort of that between me and her. But that's your mother. Knowing how Alicia is, she wouldn't step those boundaries, but she expressed to me she felt hurt and felt very violated by that. So I thought I would say something, because I don't know who did it and said, go there, walk by, see what he does. But I just know that it was in front of a lot of people, and I remember Robert Zarate and Alicia, and I want to say, I think Mary looked at her like, what are you doing? Like they knew that she was disrespecting the casket in front of Robert Zarate. He's just a kid, he's 17 years old, and he got hit by a car at 70 miles an hour. It was a very gruesome, bad car wreck. There were several people that looked, because I looked at the crowd of people in line and sort of around me, and you can tell everybody kind of frozen and looked over them, like this person was not acting appropriate. So I don't know if there's cameras there, I don't know what was going on, but I thought I would say something. So say and do what you want. Somebody I know said something for whatever psychology reasons, but I know that to do that in front of her brother's casket, how close Alicia was. Not all sisters are close to their brothers like that, and not all brothers are close to their sisters, and not other family members are close, but Alicia was very heartfelt close to Robert. Like, she very much nourished him, bought him clothes, and she was like, Bubba, where you going? Bubba, I don't need you to be good. Like, almost like a mother to him. Very much like a mother to Robert. And she very much saw Robert as, it's almost like, she very much loved him and took care of him. Like, very much. Was buying him clothes and looking after him. always looking after him, always giving him a little extra money. Thought I would say something, but I don't know who the psychologists were that said that, but I remember her crying, and I know that that affected her, that she was thinking about that. Like, here I am next to Hector, I was so close to him, your mother's showing up, which is not even your mother, and disrespecting the casket in front of a kid, in front of the family. But I remember them saying that. Alicia expressed that, and everyone looked for a moment, like, what are you doing? Like, you're disrespecting, are you great? Like, it was something that's very, like, violating, very violating. But I wanted to say this because I know they're trying to clean up right now. That's why my mother gave me a phone call, talking very disgusting to me over the phone and cursing at me out of nowhere. So they're trying to clean up using reverse psychology and whatever. But I needed to make a video on this because that very much triggered it for me as well, to have even more animosity toward my mother because she didn't seem that she gave a damn. It was very disrespectful. It looked very disrespectful in front of a casket and funeral, because she was basically standing like right in front of it and putting like the attention show on her, and she didn't show any empathy. And Alicia, she expressed this to me. She didn't go into huge amounts of details, but she expressed this to me that she didn't like, because everyone stopped and froze, like, looked at her like she was an eagle, like she was being evil with this situation, tragic. Because I remember looking at Robert Girardi Sr. at the funeral, and he looked like he died. He looked like he was dying inside, and I know he was sick already, but there was a very torn, deep part of him that was very, very taken away, very deep. And I remember his eyes just in total despair beyond anything I'd ever really seen anybody express on the loss of an individual that they cared about, whether son, daughter, father. I don't think I'd ever seen anybody like that in that type of distress. And he looked like he had lost a part of him that he couldn't live anymore without Robert. And it was carried in just silence. And you could see those expressions on his face and his body and his expressions. But they all looked at my mother when they did this. And I remember walking by, I remember walking by and looking at Robert. And I knew him so well that I knew he looked at me like he knew Hector's mother just disrespected. Like, it was, you don't even want to go into details of it, but I could tell by looking at him, he was kind of more like he had to shrug it off because there was something else more tragic, more important. And I thought I would say something. I don't know. I honestly feel that somebody told her to do that. I mean, that's my opinion. Whether she acted on it more disrespectful in front of the family and a casket of this kid and 17 years old, young man, and who I was so close to, I thought I would say something. So, because it needs to be fixed. They need to find understanding and whatever the situation is. But I thought I'd make a video on that.